Okay, so welcome back. Now, we're talking about sheet layers, and I'm still looking at the sheet layers. This is part 3, viewports and sheet layers. Now, the thing that I really want you to remember is that a viewport is really just a picture. It's a picture of what you have drawn, right? And it's taken a picture of a very specific location on your design layer. If you were to go in and to move everything away, and I'll show you, let's go back to our design layer of lighting, right? And here I am back in my design layer where I can edit individual objects. And if I were to select everything, and I'm going to move it off to the side, it's going to take it a minute because it's a big 3D drawing. I've just moved everything. Let's go look at our sheet layer and see how that's changed. And we want to go up and we want to look at sheet layer number 1, right? Look, it has moved everything off to the side. Remember that our viewport is just a frame that we have put on our design layer. So once you start making viewports and sheet layers, you want to really be a little careful about how you might move things around on your drawing, because it's possible to move things out of what your viewing area is, right? So just remember that a viewport is just a picture of a design layer. It is a frame that is put around part of a design layer. So that's an important thing to do. Now, I'm just going to do a Control Z, and I'm going to go back and put my drawing back where it was, just because I don't want to ruin everything. And now let's go look at our sheet layer, and our sheet layer should be back and it should be fine. Okay, now let's go look. We can put more than one viewport on a page. Let's go look at our lighting. Let's say, for example, that I need to look at just this little area here, and I need to look at it kind of up close so that I can tell exactly what's going on, and I need to present that to someone. I can go in and I'll draw another little rectangle. Let's just draw a rectangle around that. Now, again, whatever class I'm in is drawing a fill. I'm just turning the fill off. You don't even have to turn the fill off. And I'm going to go to my View, pull-down menu, Create Viewport. I'm going to say OK. Now, I'm going to just, it says Create on Layer, and it by default probably shows you the last sheet layer you were working on. And we only have one at this point, or you only have one. And so that's sheet layer number 1. So it's a viewport on sheet layer number 1. And let's say, OK. Wow. Look, it is now put 2 pictures out here. You can see this one is now available over here. I have the large viewport that I did first, and now I have a second viewport, right? I can change the scale of either one of these viewports. I could make them larger or smaller. Let's change some scale. Let's look at some options that we have over here in our viewport. Right? So the first thing I'll do is I'll select this big viewport, which is a little too big. I'd like to make it smaller. If you scroll down object info of that viewport, you have many, many options. I could change the drawing title, the drawing number, right? We could make the crop visible or invisible. We could rotate it, right? We have all kinds of options to treat it just like an object. But one of the things that we can adjust is the scale. And rather than a 1/2 inch scale, maybe we only need a 1/4 inch scale. And by scrolling up and down the list, you can, it's near the top is actually where the common ones for us are going to be, empirical scale, right? We could change this to a 1/4 inch view. Look, it made this smaller. When we print this, this will now print in 1/4 inch scale rather than 1/2 inch scale. Now I can move it over, and I wanted detail out of this drawing, and it's in 1/2 inch, so it's a little bigger. Maybe we want to make it even larger. Let's go and make this 1 inch equals 1 foot, right? So now I have 2 different viewports on the same page, but they're in different scale. This full stage drawing up here is in 1/4 inch scale, and this drawing here is in 1 inch scale to provide more clarity, right? So this is how we can adjust scale. There are also some other options that we can use inside of our viewport. Inside of each viewport, we can determine what is visible and what is invisible. We can determine both the layer and the class. In the drawing that's up here, I can select which layers are going to be seen. This has no bearing on my actual design layer, on my drawing layer. It is strictly for this picture. I can turn things on or off. What we've done when we took that picture, we took a picture of everything that was visible, and now I can control what's turned on or off. If I want to turn off the theater architecture layer, right, which is going to be all of the walls and the floor, I can come over to my object info, and it's going to list all of the layers in the drawing, and it will show which ones are visible or invisible just in that viewport, in that frame. I'll turn that off and say OK, and now you'll see the only thing that is left is my lighting information. Let's go back and turn that back on. I go to Layers, Theater Architecture, and I'll say OK. The thing that you may wind up turning on or off may be classes, and you may turn on or off classes for clarity, right? So let's go look at our other viewport down here. In this viewport down here, maybe we don't need to look at our masking. We don't need to see those little wavy lines. That's controlled by classes, right? Because it's just part of the layer architecture. If I go to classes and I scroll down until I get to my masking, here I have all of my masking layers. Again, you may just have one class called masking. I think I have two. And I'm going to go ahead and just turn all of my masking classes off. I'll say OK. And look, it's just turned off those curtains, right? There are other options that we could turn on or off as well. If I go to my classes and I scroll down until I get to my legend, right? Label, lighting, labels, unit number, dimmer, channel. Let's turn off purpose. Let's turn off purpose, and we'll say OK. We'll now see that all of the tags that are beside the fixtures that that told us where it pointed have now been turned off. And again, that is only in this viewport. If I were to go look in my other viewport, you'll see that that information remains. These are two different pictures, right, that are just on the same page. Now, and this is a very, very powerful setup that allows us to do this. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to pause now, and I'll come back with another video in just a second.